Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, Spain and Norway recognize a Palestinian state. And former U.S. presidential candidate Nikki Haley says Israeli soldiers are fighting America's enemies. Jonathan Tobin on delegitimizing Israel by recognizing a Palestinian state. The secret world of the ultra-orthodox and an ancient gold ring sheds light on Jerusalem from more than 2,000 years ago. All this and more on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. Spain and Norway are recognizing a Palestinian state with Eastern Jerusalem as its capital. It comes as the UN Security Council may convene about an incident in Rafah. As the White House investigates whether an Israeli strike that the Gaza Ministry of Health says resulted in the death of dozens of civilians violated a red line, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended Israel's actions while admitting a tragic mishap took place.
In Rafah, we've already evacuated about 1 million non-involved residents. And despite our best efforts not to harm the non-involved, unfortunately a technical failure happened last night. We're investigating the case. We will present the conclusions because this is our policy.
The IDF released this graphic showing the strike took place outside the humanitarian zone set up to take Gazans out of harm's way. They took several steps to reduce the risk to uninvolved civilians and use precision munitions. This video posted online purports to show that a Hamas jeep loaded with ammunition and weapons contributed to the destruction with secondary explosions. The strike targeted 2 senior Hamas terrorists who directed terror attacks in Judea and Samaria.
According to initial reports, a fire broke out after the attack. These terrorists were hiding underground.
Monday, former U.S. presidential candidate Nikki Haley toured the sites of the October 7th massacre, including the Nova Music Festival. Haley told reporters Israel is fighting the same enemies as America and blasted Ireland, Norway, and Spain for recognizing a Palestinian state.
For all those countries who decided to recognize a Palestinian state, do you know what that felt like here in Israel? You just gave credit to Hamas and all that they did. For all those looking at the ICC and ICJ, right before we landed, there were strikes in Tel Aviv. Why? Because the ICC and ICJ just emboldened Hamas.
A Hamas leader says the group is also encouraged by protests on U.S. college campuses. Khaled Mashal said the protesters will help defeat the Jewish state.
We thank the great student flood which emerged from the American, European, and Western universities and has reached all the countries of our nation. We are grateful for the spirit that we have witnessed in our nation and in humanity as a whole. We have the opportunity to defeat Israel, Allah willing. We have an opportunity to dismantle the Zionist enterprise.
Meanwhile, Egypt and Israel are investigating an exchange of fire between their forces near Rafah that left 1 Egyptian soldier dead. As you saw in our previous story, former U.S. presidential candidate and former U.S. ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, paid a solidarity visit to Israel this week. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl joined her on her trip down south to see and experience the devastation Hamas terrorists perpetrated on October 7th.
Haley visited Sderot, where she spoke to journalists about her trip in the South and U.S.-Israel ties.
I always tell people when they're in Israel to kiss the ground for me, because I truly believe this is sacred ground, and we need to remember that. What happened on October 7th is not sacred. What happened on October 7th was pure evil, and what happened on October 7th can never be forgotten.
The empty lot behind me used to be the Sderot police station. On October 7th, terrorists infiltrated the building, took over, and killed all the policemen inside. Forces had to destroy the building in order to kill the terrorists.
We want to see a friendship between the United States and Israel that's unwavering, because we know we have the same enemies.
Sderot Mayor Alon Davidi welcomed Haley and said the war against Hamas must continue.
We will destroy Hamas. We will bring back the hostages that they are in Gaza, and we can change the future, not just for us, for all our neighborhood. And to do it, we need to be strong, and I'm so happy that you are here. I know that you are support Israel, you love the Jewish nation and the states of Israel.
Hosted by Knesset member and former Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, Haley and her husband Michael started the day at Kibbutz Nir Oz, one of the hardest hit communities on October 7th.
And as we went through that kibbutz, what we saw was home after home after home that wasn't just destroyed, but every house we walked into was a total nightmare, because you saw a family that struggled for their life. These were people who were burned alive. These were children who were killed. These were women that were raped. All of that, house after house. And what was very clear was they knew what they were doing.
At the Nova Music Festival site, where there was an intense dust storm, Haley met with a festival survivor.
All I could think about was my kids, because my kids could have been at that concert. And what you saw was where there were a lot of kids that should have been having fun and listening to music and loving their life. Out of nowhere, they heard gunshots, they saw parachutes coming in, and the next thing they knew, it was sheer terror.
Haley says Hamas wasn't the only perpetrator of the October 7th massacre.
It's clear that this took years to plan, but make no mistake, this is one of the most brutal massacres I have ever experienced, heard about, seen the damages of. It was orchestrated by Iran. It was helped with Russian intelligence, and it was fueled by money from China. Don't deny that. China's been funding Iran the entire time. Russia's intelligence helped them know where everything was. Iran helped get them trained.
And the war isn't just against Israel, it's against America too.
These heroic Israeli soldiers are fighting America's enemies. They didn't just say death to Israel, they're saying death to America. We have to wake up to that. This isn't going to go away by some political agreement.
Haley says America needs to embolden Israel and not the terrorists, and it's time to make a choice.
So if there was ever a time that we needed unity between those countries who believe in freedom and democracy and put faith in life, now is that time.
She's challenging the world to pick a side.
My side's going to be the one where we know, if we all want to have moral clarity, we have to speak for those who can no longer speak. We have to fight for those who can no longer fight. This shouldn't have happened. But we can never let this happen again. And if you think it's only going to be in Israel, if we are arrogant enough, this could absolutely happen in America too.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Sderot, Israel.
Coming up, delegitimizing Israel by recognizing a Palestinian state and ruling against the Jewish state in international courts. The recognition of Palestinian statehood on the heels of Hamas's October 7th massacre of Israelis has shocked many. CBN's Gary Lane asked JNS editor-in-chief Jonathan Tobin what's behind the upsurge in support for a Palestinian state and the recent rulings in the ICC and ICJ against Israel.
Jonathan, what do you make of Norway's reaction to the proposed ICC arrest warrants and also joining Spain and Ireland in calling for a Palestinian state?
Well, this is part of the international campaign to delegitimize Israel, to legitimize the war against it that has been waged by Hamas and Palestinian terrorist movements. It's an outrage. It should not be allowed to stand. I think the United States as the superpower, as the leader of NATO, has to exercise its influence. The International Criminal Court should be utterly defunded. I think the prosecutor should be sanctioned. The United States has levers at its disposal to pressure these organizations. Unfortunately, the Biden administration, though it rightly condemned the attempt to indict Netanyahu, nevertheless, it's very much in love with multilateral institutions like the UN and all of its agencies, and it's reluctant to move against them. And that's part of the problem why they feel empowered to do this.
This push for a Palestinian state. So why do you think countries and even members of the Biden administration continue to push the idea when there's no commitment from both Hamas and, I might add, the Palestinian Authority to renounce their pledge to destroy Israel?
For generations, the foreign policy establishment, the international community, has been obsessed with the idea that creating an independent Palestinian state is the answer to the problems of the Middle East, is the path to peace. Now, there are a couple of problems with this. Number one, the Palestinians don't want a Palestinian state if it means living alongside Israel in peace. They don't want, if they had wanted a Palestinian Arab state in that country, they could have had one 75 years ago. That was the original UN partition plan, a Jewish state, an Arab state. This is a failed policy. And the fact that, it doesn't take, that they would revive it basically as a reward for terrorism.
I know you wrote a column this week examining the consequences of the Biden administration's policy mistakes regarding Israel and its conduct in the Gaza war, saying the administration has condemned another generation for war. Explain that, please.
In the immediate aftermath of the October 7th atrocities, there was a moment when the civilized world could say, okay, Israel has to go into Gaza and just completely destroy Hamas, as much as the Allies went into Germany in 1945 and completely destroyed the Nazis, and forced the German people to make a choice. Do you give up this Nazi ideology and start over? The Palestinians in Gaza and elsewhere have the same, should be forced to make the same choice, because they are, as we've seen with every rejection of a peace plan and a peace offer over the decades, their sense of national identity is inextricably tied up with this war on Zionism and the existence of Israel, not where its borders should be, but whether there should be a Jewish state at all. The only way peace will happen is if there is a sea change in their political culture. October 7th gave the world an opportunity to force the Palestinians to make that choice. But we know now, after everything that has happened in the last 7 months, that opportunity has been missed. And the Palestinians are convinced they're going to go on. No matter what happens in Gaza, they're going to be convinced that the world is with them, as we've discussed with Western nations attacking Israel, recognizing them and giving them a gift for October 7th. This means another generation of war.
Up next, author Tuvia Tenenbaum dives into the secret world of the ultra-orthodox community and is surprised by what he finds. Author Tuvia Tenenbaum's specialty is becoming part of a community's inside world and then sharing what he finds. His latest adventure was to live among the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community here in Jerusalem. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl spoke with Tuvia about his new book, Careful, Beauty's Ahead.
Tuvia Tenenbaum, welcome to Jerusalem Dateline.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you again, Julie, as always.
Now, you are the son and grandson of ultra-Orthodox rabbis, and you left that community as a young man, but recently you returned to that lifestyle, living in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish neighborhood of Mea Shearim here in Jerusalem, and now you've written a book about it. Careful, Beauty's Ahead, My Year with the Ultra-Orthodox.
Yes.
Why did you write
correct.
this book?
The reason is very simple. I don't believe in a journalist or a writer who go to write books because they have some axe to grind. So I never tell my publisher what I want. I try to get the publisher. You tell me, what do you think I should write next? My editor in Berlin asked me, would you mind to go to Israel, be with the ultra-orthodox community, and come back after a year with a book? I said, okay, so I go. And then I said to myself, where should I go? Mea Shearim is the most authentic, ultra-orthodox Haredi community in Jerusalem before the establishment of the states, and we stayed there for over a year. And of course, in between, this was our base, we went to many other ultra-orthodox community all across Israel.
So what was your experience like living there, and what kind of response have you gotten now from them?
Exactly opposite from what people told me.
Okay.
People, colleagues in the media, in literature, they always said to me, don't do that. Don't even live in their neighborhoods because you are aggressive people, because you are violent, because you throw stones at you, because you are not religious. The first evenings you throw stones at you, stand outside your window and say, infidel, get out, or all kinds of things like that. It turned out, this is not what happened. I said to myself, if this is what they do, I'm glad, thank God that I have glasses so the stones will not go into my eyes. But I would write whatever happens to me, but exactly opposite. I lived with them, Shabbat dinners, Shabbat lunches, they came to us, they invited us to them, we went, participated in all their good times, births, funerals, whatever you want. It was an amazing experience. We're very, very welcome. And I found the communities that I did not even know how great it is, how beautiful it is, amazing people, warm, how much they care for each other, how funny they are, they're Yiddish, they speak Yiddish, but the Galicianer Yiddish, you say, it's like the Eastern European Yiddish, which is a very funny Yiddish. It's basically what you call Jewish humor, and I try to bring that humor to the book.
Okay, so they're not even speaking Hebrew, they're speaking Yiddish.
They speak Hebrew, but between themselves they speak Yiddish. And if you speak Yiddish and you live with them and you honor them by living with them, and they were very welcoming. Like one of them said to me, I said to one of them, I said, how come you welcome me so much? Everybody said you would be violent against me. It's like, first of all, violent we are not. Number one, how come we welcome you so much? He said, look, when you come to us and you speak with us Yiddish, it's not you talking to us, it's your grandpa talking to our grandpas. And they know my grandparents, my great-grandparents. I come from not only from rabbinic, also from a rebbe, which is like leader of a dynasty in Poland. So the welcome was amazingly good, even though they know I'm not religious, that I'm not observant, and it was really amazing.
Tuvia, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
We look forward to reading your book, Careful, Beauties Ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Still ahead, archaeologists find a rare ancient gold ring revealing details about Jerusalem of more than 2,000 years ago. Despite the war, the Israel Antiquities Authority is continuing excavations that are uncovering rare finds. Take a look.
To find gold in an excavation is not something that we find every day. Everyone always asks us, do you find gold? Do you find gold? And usually the answer is no, but now the answer is yes. It's very exciting. Shia was sifting through the dirt that we excavated in the area, and suddenly she screamed, I found a ring, I found a ring. I said to her, nah, don't pull my leg. She said, no, come, I found a gold ring. So I came, and she really did find a very nice gold ring. Gold ring with a red gemstone in the middle that was found behind me in the Givati excavations of the City of David National Park, an excavation run by the Israel Antiquities Authority and Tel Aviv University. What's nice about gold is that it doesn't have any corrosion and it comes out clean and shiny from the excavations. So already in the area we could see how special it was. It is a small gold ring, probably belonged to a young girl, maybe boy, or a woman. The ring was found in early Hellenistic context, dated to the end of the 4th, beginning of the 3rd century BC. This ring, together with a gold earring and a gold bead that was found in 2017 here in the Givati excavations, start to tell a new story of the early Hellenistic period in Jerusalem, of a larger city, of a more capable society, people that could afford gold jewelry, gold rings for children. So it's new and exciting, and it's not things that we knew about beforehand.
Sometimes life can be challenging for immigrants to Israel. That's when CBN Israel can offer a helping hand, like they did to Mila. Take a look.
Mila was only 6 years old when World War II started. She recalls the early days of the war in Russia when her father left for the army and her mother evacuated to save their children.
My youngest brother was only 3 months old. There were bombs exploding all around. God spared us.
Eventually, Mila married and with her family immigrated to Israel, since they were Jewish. Over the years, she made a life for herself, but it wasn't easy, especially after her husband passed away.
My budget is very limited. I cook simple food.
After years of financial struggle and loneliness, Mila met the team from CBN Israel. To help her out, we gave her bags of groceries and invited her to join other seniors to socialize and eat healthy meals at a center supported by CBN Israel. We also helped Mila pay for the cost of medical treatment she received during an overnight emergency.
I was taken by ambulance to the hospital with very high blood pressure. I felt very ill and thought I was going to die. Some of the trip costs, hospital charges, and medicine I had to pay for out of pocket.
Thanks to you, CBN Israel paid the cost for the ambulance, hospital, and medicines Mila needed that were not covered by her insurance.
I'm so thankful that you're helping me. I owed a lot of money. The bill was very high. I have to take expensive medicine that I bought with your help. It was even enough to buy a new blood pressure monitor.
From World War II survivors to new immigrants to Holocaust survivors, you make it possible for CBN Israel to help them all.
I feel honored by the kindness of the people who support me. It's hard to keep back the tears. I'm so grateful that they haven't forgotten the tragedy we lived through. May God bless them and grant them a long life.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. And please continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and Israel at this critical moment, and for the speedy and safe return of the hostages. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.